There we go, and we're live.
Well, bienvenue.
Hello.
Bienvenue. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Hag Purim Sameach.
Uh, How Purim Samek.
Yeah.
Apparently, you know, I was, you're never supposed to wear a I love New York shirt outside of New York, right? And apparently I ripped it apart myself because, nobody else would ever do that because,
Yeah.
it's always our fault, right? I mean, how dare we? But anyhow, it's Purim and this is my first Purim and
Yeah, there you go. Per
Ooh. Ooh, so my what do we call them? We're supposed to be really just terrible. Should I call him my Goyim or
Your Shabbos going?
my Shabbos Goyim? He drinks, because I'm like, I have my nearest and dearest closest to my heart always. Never,
You're cracking me up.
right? I mean, it's all about right. What do we do when they try to kill us?
Yeah. The claws come
So I was
out.
really, I was thinking actually, and I'm usually pretty thoughtful about these things, but I'm going to be my ditzy self today. And I'm thinking that we should just read this.
Yeah,
And oh, look, it's him
there we go.
over my shoulder.
Meow.
Yeah, there's two of us. Mm.
Ah,
Oh, hello. How are you, dear?
I'm fine.
Look what I keep close to my heart. As you know, my shekels. Oh, it's always about the shekels, right? It's always about. Oh, by the way, of course, you don't know shekels is money. It's all about the money, 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 as they know. I mean,
Mhm.
he should know, right? I mean, he only loves me for my money, and I always love him because that's just the way it is. Money, 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 money.
Yeah, money makes the world go
Around,
round,
around.
round, go
Give me a
round.
drink. He brought me a drink.
There
Meow.
It's a
you
screw.
go. That looks good.
I'm so excited because did I ever tell you the story about when this guy like asked me out and then he found out I was a K-I, the word we can't say. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, this
Ugh.
is a lovely story. So 9
Dodged a
11
bullet.
is over.
Yeah,
Sarah Shalom, right? Shabbat's over. So it's my
that's
up.
true. Yep, Shavuot Tov.
Oh, yeah. So anyhow, 9/11 had just happened, and this like guy was like, "Honey," we were sitting around, and it was like when you get a gaggle of Jewish women together, we clearly are Jewish, and we just babble along away,
Mhm.
and he had given me his number, and then he comes back and hands it back and says, "I don't date K that K word, that word that YouTube will make us go bye bye for, but
Mhm.
there's a bunch of things that we can, but we're the ones you can't talk about, right? Right?
There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. So anyway. And he hands me his number back and says, I don't date those. And I said, "Oh, honey, that's too bad. We give great head." And notice my very classy guy over here. Silence.
Mm.
But you can't see his face.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
though. See his
Mhm.
Oh, look how handsome he is. So shall we read? So explain to the good folks watching if they are watching, if anyone's watching. I don't care if anyone's watching. I don't know if anyone's watching. Um, what we're doing because this is my first Purim.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so,
Sorry, I got attacked. Oh no, I'm sorry. I did this to myself.
oh,
Because I'm a New York Jew. We do
there
it
you
to ourselves.
go. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, well, so Purim is a holiday that we celebrate to commemorate when Queen Esther and her, I believe, cousin or her uncle. We'll find
Uncle,
out in the story. Her uncle, that's right, her uncle, Doy.
remember though, for those kids who don't understand, everything goes upside down on Purim.
Yeah.
The world is upside down and inside out and upside down. Hence they call it the Jewish Halloween. But good is bad, bad is good. Everything is upside down.
There you go. Yeah.
So
So,
people thinking that I'm actually saying, I mean, I'm lying about
yeah.
everything. Always. Because what do you do when you have to use your mystique to save one?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. So Queen Esther and her uncle basically like.
I think every time we see Esther, we should go.
Well, we'll find out in the whole story. I don't want to give the whole Megillah away, but yeah, it's to commemorate Queen Esther and how she saved the Jews from the evil old meanie guy Haman, which yeah, when you hear Haman, you go boo.
One of the Viking Horror Picture Show. Janet Weiss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It's the original Rocky Horror Picture Show, folks.
Usually have groggers or like noisemakers too, but I ran out of time to go get any groggers. So yeah, exactly. We make our own noise. So traditionally is we read through the whole story of Purim and yeah, I mean my Hebrew's not good, so we're gonna do it in English and that way that way everyone can follow or the story, and it's not I don't think it's too long. I think in this little book it's like 10 pages.
We can do the shorter version if we must.
Or a speed reading.
Which page am I on, darling?
1753.
Sounds like a good number. It's how many shekels I put. And see, I'm kidding here. Also, for those wondering, no, this is not actually in Torah. This is in Tanakh.
Yes, that's
what
right.
Could that be? Jew magic. Speaking of, I know you said 1753, right?
Yes.
So one thing so people understand when I'm making a joke about Jew magic, I remember there was a time on the Twitters before the Twitters were the X, and this lovely gentleman shared a picture of a mezuzah that was given to him by a friend when they went to Israel, and he was very concerned that it would release Jew magic and asked should he destroy the Jew magic. Quite literally, this was on Twitter. And Jew Twitter joined in and started giving other images of Jew magic. My personal favorite, I do give myself a woot woot, was a picture of Jesus exiting the cave. Jew magic. Just saying. So, this is the story of Esther. And what's really kind of neat in this story that I've heard is that God is not mentioned once.
That is right. It's the only book in the whole Tanakh where the name of God is not present at all in the text. So, and yet it's a very big special holiday. So maybe by the end of the story, we'll know why.
Yeah. And see this good man right here. And no, he's not. We are not trying. Will you be my emotional support animal, darling? I'll be yours. All right. So no, we're not burying it. Your head's out of the gutter. So shall you begin, darling?
Sure. And do you want to just go paragraph by paragraph? That sound good?
Do best.
Okay. All right. Okay. And it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, he is the Ahasuerus who reigned from Hodu to Cush, 127 provinces in those days when King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne, which was in Shushan, the capital. In the third year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and his servants, the army of Persia and Media, the nobles and officials of the provinces being present, when he displayed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his splendorous majesty for many days, 180 days. And when these days were fulfilled, the king made a 7-day feast for all the people who were present in Shushan, the capital, great and small alike, in the courtyard of the garden of the king's palace. There were hangings of white fine cotton and turquoise wool, held with cords of fine linen and purple wool upon silver rods and marble pillars. The couches of gold and silver were on a pavement of I've never seen that word before. Variegated marble. Like, wow, so it's not often I come across a word I've literally never seen. The drinks were served in golden vessels of diverse form, and the royal wine in abundance, in accordance with the king's wealth. And the drinking was according to the law. There was no coercion, for so the king had established for every officer of his house to do according to each man's pleasure.
Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal house of King. How do you say his name?
Let me look at the okay.
It's
Yeah,
Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus.
Ahasuerus. Yeah, Ahasuerus. Yeah.
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he told Mehuman, Bezetha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains with who attended King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king, adorned with the royal crown, to show off to the people of the officials of her beauty. For she was beautiful of appearance. But Queen Vashti refused to come. At the king's command, conveyed by the hand of the chamberlains, the king therefore became very enraged, and his wrath burned in him.
All right. Then the king spoke to the wise men, those who knew the times, for such was the king's procedure to turn to all who knew law and judgment, those closest to him. Karshena, Shethar, Amatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 officers of Persia and Media who had access to the king, who sat first in the kingdom. By the law, what should be done to Queen Vashti for not having obeyed the bidding of the king Ahasuerus, conveyed by the hand of the chamberlains?
Memucan declared before the king and the officials, not only against the king has Queen Vashti done wrong, but against all the officials and all the people in the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's deed will go forth to all women, making their husbands contemptible in their eyes, when they will say, King Ahasuerus said to bring Queen Vashti before him, but she did not come. And this day, the princesses of Persia and Media, who have heard the queen's deed, will speak of it to all the king's officials, and there will be much contempt and rage. If it pleases the king, let there go forth a royal edict from him, and let it be written into the laws of Persia and Media that it not be revoked, that Vashti never again appear before the king Ahasuerus. Bum, bum, bum. And let the king confer her royal estate upon another who is better than she. Then the king's decree, which he will proclaim, shall be heard throughout all this kingdom, great though it be, and all the wise will show respect to their husbands, great and small alike. This proposal was favorable in the eyes of the king and the officials, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. And he sent letters into all the king's provinces, and each province in its own script, and to each people in its own language, to the effect that every man should rule in his own home and speak the language of his own people.
After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's attendants said, Let there be sought for the king young maidens of beautiful appearance, and let the king appoint commissioners in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they gather together every young maiden of beautiful appearance to Shushan the capital, to the harem, under the charge of Hegai, the king's chamberlain, guardian of the women, and let their cosmetics be given them. Then, then what? Sorry.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
There you go. Then let the girl who pleases the king reign in place of Vashti. The matter pleased the king, and he did so.
There was a Jewish man in the Shushan, the capital, whose name was Mordecai, son of Jer, son of Shammai, son of Kish, and a Benjamite, who had been exiled from Jerusalem, along with the exiles who had been exiled with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had exiled. And he had reared Hadassah. She is Esther, his uncle's daughter. For she had neither father nor mother. The maiden was finely featured and beautiful of appearance. And when her father and mother had died, Mordecai adopted her as his daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's bidding and decree were announced, and when many young maidens were being brought together to Shushan the capital under the charge of Hagal, that Esther, was taken to the king's palace under the charge of Haggai, guardian of the women. The girl was pleasing in his eyes, and she found favor with him. He hurriedly prepared her cosmetics and her allowances of delicacies to present to her, along with the 7 attendants from the king's palace, and he transferred her and her maidens to the best quarters in the in the harem. Esther had not told of her people and of her kindred, for Mordecai had instructed her not to tell. Day after day, Mordecai would walk about in front of the courtyard of the harem to learn about Esther's well-being and what would become of her.
Now, when each maiden's turn arrived to come to King Ahasuerus after having been treated according to the law prescribed for women for 12 months, for so was the prescribed length of their anointing accomplished 6 months with oil of mirth, and 6 months with perfumes and feminine cosmetics.
Can we bring that back? Because that sounds real good to me.
I know, it does sound nice, doesn't it? And when the girl came in this manner to the king, she was given whatever she requested to accompany her from the harem of the king's palace. In the evening, she would come, and in the morning, she would return to the second harem in the charge of Shashgaz, the king's chamberlain, guardian of the concubines. She would never again come to the king unless the king desired her, and she was summoned by name.
It's good to be the king.
Yeah. Say that again.
Now, when the turn came for Esther, daughter of Abigail, I think I just figured out why some people really dig the king of Saudi Arabia so much. I'm just saying. Just saying. It's kind of hard, to compete with that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, now when the turn came for Esther, daughter of Abihail, uncle of Mordecai, who had adopted her as his daughter, to come to the king, she requested nothing except except that which Haggai, the king's chamberlain, guardian of the women, had advised. Either would find favor in the eyes of all who saw her. Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Teves, in the 7th year of his reign. The king loved Esther more than all the women, and she found more favor and kindness before him than all of the other maidens, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen in place of Vashti. Then the king made a great banquet for all of his officers and his servants. It was Esther's banquet, and he proclaimed an amnesty for the provinces and gave gifts worthy of the king's hand.
Oh, there I am. And when the maidens were gathered together the second time, and Mordecai sat at the king's gate, Esther still told nothing of her kindred or her people as Mordecai had instructed her. For Esther continued to obey Mordecai just as when she was reared by him.
In those days, while Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, 2 of the king's chamberlains of the guardians of the threshold, became enraged and sought to send their hand against King Ahasuerus. The matter became known to Mordecai, who told it to Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. The matter was investigated and found to be true, and they were both hanged on a gallows. It was recorded in the Book of Chronicles in the king's presence.
After these things, after these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, boo, son, son of Hamadatha, the Agagite, boy, okay, and elevated him. He set his seat above all the officers who were with him. All the king's servants at the king's gate would bow down and prostrate themselves before Haman. Boo! For so had the king commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow. Yeah, yay! But Mordecai would not bow and would not prostrate. Yeah, he would not bow.
Not bow.
Because we don't bow to nobody.
Nope.
So the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Now it happened when they said this to him day after day, and he did not heed them, they told Haman, boo, to see whether Mordecai's words would prevail, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman, boo, himself saw that Mordecai did not bow down and prostrate himself before him, Haman,
Boo!
boo, was filled with wrath. However, it seemed contemptible to him to send his hand against Mordecai alone, for they had told him of the people of Mordecai. So Haman, boo,
Boo!
sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout the entire kingdom of Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. In the first month, in the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, uh, Pur, that is the lot, was cast in the presence of Haman. Boo!
Boo!
From day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, which is the month of Adar.
Then Haman, boo!
Boo!
Said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your realm. Their laws are different from every other people's, and they do not observe the king's laws. Therefore, is it not befitting the king to tolerate it? Is it not befitting the king to tolerate them? Is that right?
Yeah.
If it pleases the king, let it be recorded that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 silver talents into the hands of those who perform the duties for deposit into the king's treasures.
So the king removed his signet ring from his hand.
I did it myself, the shekels.
So the king removed his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, boo,
Whoa!
son of Hammedatha the Agagite, enemy of the Jews. Then the king said to Haman, boo,
Whoa!
the silver is given to you, the people also, to do with as you see fit.
The king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and everything was written exactly as Haman
Boo.
had dictated to the king's satraps, to the governors who were over every province, and to the officials of every people. To each province in his own script, and to each people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, and it was sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by courier to all the provinces of the king to destroy, to slay, and to exterminate all the Jews, from the young to the old, children and women, in one day.
Boo.
Oh, thank you, honey. On the 13th of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. Copies of the document were to be promulgated in every province and be published to all peoples for them to be prepared for that day. The couriers went forth hurriedly by order of the king, and the edict was distributed in Shushan, the capital. The king and Haman
Boo.
sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was bewildered.
Mordecai learned of all that had been done, and Mordecai tore his clothes and donned sackcloth and ashes. He went out into the midst of the city and cried a loud and bitter cry. He came until the front of the king's gate, for it was forbidden to enter the king's gate in a garment of sackcloth. And in every province, any place the king's command and his decree extended, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and lament. Sackcloth and ashes were spread out for the masses.
And Esther's maidens came, as well as her chamberlains, and told her about it. And the queen was greatly distressed. And she sent garments to cloth Mordecai, and to remove his sackcloth from him. And he would not accept them.
Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had stationed before her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to learn what this was about and why. So Hathach went out to Mordecai to the city square, which was in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told him of all that had happened to him and all about the sum of money that Haman, boo,
Boo!
had promised to pay to the royal treasuries for the annihilation of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the decree that was distributed in Shushan for their destruction, so that he might show it to Esther and inform her, and bid her to go to the king to implore of him and to plead with him for her people.
Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Then Esther told Hathach and ordered him to return to Mordecai, saying, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court who is not summoned, his law is one, to be put to death, except for the one to whom the king shall extend the gold scepter, so that he may live. Now I have not been summoned to come to the king for these past 30 days.
They related Esther's words to Mordecai. Then Mordecai said to reply to Esther, "Do not imagine in your soul that you will be able to escape in the king's palace any more than the rest of the Jews. For if you persist in keeping silent at a time like this, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another place, while you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether it was just for such a time as this that you attained the royal position."
Then Esther said to reply to Mordecai, "Go, assemble all the Jews that are to be found in Shushan, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day, and I with my maids will fast also. Thus I will come to the king, though it is unlawful, and if I perish, I perish." Mordecai then left and did exactly as Esther had commanded him.
Now it came to pass on the third day, Esther donned royalty and stood in the inner courtyard of the king's palace, facing the king's palace, while the king was sitting on his royal throne in the royal palace, facing the entrance of the palace. When the king noticed Queen Esther standing in the courtyard, she found favor in his eyes. The king extended to Esther the gold scepter that was in his hand, and Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter.
The king said to her, "Was it for you, O Queen Esther? And what is your petition? Even if it be until half the kingdom, it shall be granted to you."
Esther said, "If it please the king, let the king and Haman, boo,
Oh!
come today to the banquet that I have prepared for him."
Then the king commanded, "Hasten, Haman.
Boo.
Fulfill Esther's word." So the king and Haman came to the banquet
Boo.
that Esther had prepared.
The king said to Esther during the wine feast, "What is your request? It shall be granted you. And what is your petition? Even if it be until half the kingdom, it shall be fulfilled."
So Esther responded and said, "My request and my petition. If I have found favor in the king's eyes, and if it pleases the king to grant my request and to fulfill my petition, let the king and Haman
Boo.
come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and tomorrow I shall fulfill the king's word."
That day, Haman,
Boo!
went out joyful and exuberant. But when Haman,
Boo!
noticed Mordecai in the king's gate and that he did not stand up and did not stir before him, Haman,
Boo!
was filled with wrath at Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman,
Boo!
restrained himself and went home. He sent and summoned his friends and his wife Zeresh. Haman,
Boo!
recounted to them the glory of his wealth and of his many sons, and all the ways in which the king had promoted him and elevated him above the officials and royal servants. Haman,
Boo!
said, "Moreover, Queen Esther brought no one but myself to accompany the king to the banquet that she had prepared, and tomorrow, too, I am invited by her along with the king. Yet all this is worth nothing to me so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate."
So his wife, Zeresh, as well as all his friends, said to him, "Let them make a gallows 50 cubits high, and in the morning speak to the king, and have them hang Mordecai on it. Then accompany the king to the banquet in good spirits." This suggestion pleased Haman,
Boo.
and he had the gallows made.
What an asshole. Okay.
Boo!
Exactly.
But also, he's not very nice either now, is she?
Mm-mm.
That's not
Nope. That night, the king's sleep was disturbed.
moral right there is all I'm saying, yo.
That night, the king's sleep was disturbed, so he commanded to bring the book of records, the chronicles, and that they be read before the king. And it was found written there that Mordecai had denounced Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains of the guardians of the threshold, who had sought to send their hand against King Ahasuerus. The king said, "What honor or majesty has been done for Mordecai for this?"
The king's attendants, his minstrels, said, "Nothing has been done for him." The
The
king said,
king, oh wait, is that
"That is
continuing?
that's
Okay. The king said, "Who is in the courtyard?" Now Haman, boo,
Boo!
was just coming into the outer courtyard of the royal palace to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows. Excuse me, hanging Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
So the king's attendants said to him, "Behold, Haman stands in the Haman
Boo!
stands in the courtyard."
And the king said, "Let him enter." Haman, boo,
Boo!
answered, and the king said to him, "What should be done for the man whom the king desires to honor?"
Now Haman
Boo.
said in his heart, "Whom would the king especially want to honor more than me?" So Haman said to the king, "For the man whom the king desires to honor, have them bring royal attire that the king has worn, and a horse upon which the king is ridden, one with a royal crown placed on his head. Then let the attire and the horse be given over to the hand of one of the king's most noble officials, and let them dress the man whom the king desires to honor, and have him ride on the horse through the city square, and let them proclaim before him, 'This is what shall be done for the man whom the king decides to honor.'"
Then the king said to Haman, "Boo. Hurry, take the attire and the horse, as you have said, and do all this for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not omit a single detail of all that you have suggested."
So Haman
Boo.
Boo.
took the garment and the horse and dressed Mordecai, and had him ride through the city square, and proclaimed before him, "This is what shall be done for the man whom the king desires to honor."
Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman, boo,
Boo!
hurried home, despondent and with his head covered. Haman,
Boo!
boo, told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him, and his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, "If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but will undoubtedly fall before him." While they were still talking to him, the king's chamberlains arrived, and they hurried to bring Haman, boo,
Boo!
to the banquet which Esther had prepared.
So the king and Haman,
Boo.
boo! Oh, hey, let's please.
You're at,
So the king
yeah.
and Haman and boo!
Boo.
Came to feast with Queen Esther. The king asked Esther again on the second day at the wine feast, "What is your request, Queen Esther? It shall be granted to you. And what is your petition? Even if it be until half the kingdom, it shall be fulfilled."
So Queen Esther responded and said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be granted to me as my request and my people as my petition. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to be exterminated. Had we been sold as slaves and maidservants, I would have kept quiet, for the adversary is not worthy of the king's damage."
Thereupon King Ahasuerus exclaimed and said to Queen Esther, "Who is this? Where is this one who dared to do so?"
And Esther said, the puppets. And Esther said, "A man who is an adversary and an enemy, this wicked Haman, boo!
Boo!
Haman, boo!
Boo!
Trembled in terror before the king and queen."
The king rose in his wrath from the wine fest and went to the palace garden, while Haman, boo, remained to beg Queen Esther for his soul, for he saw that evil had been determined against him by the king. When the king returned from the palace garden to the hall of the wine fest, Haman, boo,
Boo!
had fallen onto the couch upon which Esther was, So the king exclaimed, would he actually assault the queen while I'm in the house? As soon as the king uttered this, they covered Haman's face.
Boo! But also, yay that they covered his face, but boo to Haman. Then Harbana, one of the chamberlains in attendance before the king, said, furthermore, the gallows which Haman
Boo!
had made for Mordecai, who spoke good for the king, is standing in Haman
Boo!
in his house. It is 50 cubits high. And the king said, hang him on it. So they hanged Haman. Boo!
Yay! Boo!
Yay!
Very
on, the,
confusing.
on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai, and the king's anger abated.
That very day, King Ahasuerus gave the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told the king what he was to her. The king removed his signet ring, which he had taken away from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. Yay! Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's. Boo! Yay!
Esther yet again spoke to the king. She fell at his feet and wept and implored him to avert the evil intention of Haman, the Agagite, and his scheme that he had plotted against the Jews. The king extended the gold scepter to Esther, and Esther arose and stood before the king. She said, if it pleases the king, and if I have found favor before him, and the proposal seems proper before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to countermand those dispatches, the scheme of Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, in which he had written to exterminate the Jews who are in all the king's provinces. For how can I bear witness to the disaster? How can I bear witness? Excuse me, let's try again. For how can I bear to witness the disaster which will befall my people? How can I bear to witness the extermination of my kindred?
Then King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and to Mordecai, the Jew, behold, I have given Haman's estate.
Boo!
And they have hanged him on the gallows because he sent his hand against the Jews. Not cool at all.
Mm-hmm.
You may write concerning the Jews whatever is favorable in your eyes, in the name of the king, and seal it with the king's signet. For an edict which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet may not be revoked.
So they summoned the king's scribes at that time in the third month, which is the month of Sivan, on its 23rd day, and it was written as Mordecai had dictated to the Jews and to the satraps, the governors and officials of the provinces from Hodu to Cush, 127 provinces, to each province in its own script, and each people in its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. He wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed it with the king's signet. He sent dispatches by couriers on horseback riders and swift mules bred of mares, to the effect that the king had given permission to the Jews of every city to organize and to defend themselves, to destroy, to slay, and to exterminate every armed force of any people or province that threatened them, along with their children and women, and to plunder their possessions.
No,
Yeah.
that part because
Wondering?
no, it's Second Amendment. Like, man.
On one day, oops. On one day,
Like Second Amendment, yo. You know?
yeah, exactly. Second Amendment. That's right.
And here's the origin of the Second Amendment for it. Oh, and it comes from guess who?
Boom, boom.
The dudes.
There you go.
The more you know.
On one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, that is the month of Adar. Copies of the document were to be promulgated in every province and be published to all peoples, for the Jews to be prepared for that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. The couriers, riders, and of swift mules went forth in urgent haste by word of the king, and the edict was distributed in Shushan, the capital.
Pardon, may I ask you a question, Miss Caitlin?
Yes, you may.
Well, I mean, then why is everybody saying that my friend Ooana, the New York Jew here, did it to herself?
Because they're haters and idiots.
Oh, so they're like Haman?
That's right. Boo!
Is that also all the other really cool Jewish chicks that I know? Are they also being treated unfairly by the people who say they deserved it when they got hurt on October 7th?
That's right. That's exactly right.
So they're also behaving and being dictated by people like Haman?
That's right. Boo!
Oh! Well, everybody should tell them that because nobody wants to be like Haman.
That's right. Boo!
Oh! Well, I think that we could stop here. Don't you think we made it early? Or do you
Yeah,
want
we
to
made it to the
go?
pretty much
I
got to
like
the
Purim.
yeah.
Purim's fun. Although I think what we have to, the last part of it says, it goes on and it talks about a lot more happens here.
Yeah.
But it's long. But I think I just kind of, oh yeah, there's about 3 more pages. Maybe after we have a little bit to drink, we can read the rest.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know about you, but I need a little break because that was pretty intense.
That's right.
Wow.
Mhm.
No wonder we get dressed up and we drink for it.
Yeah.
Because also, we don't want to wish ill on our enemies.
Mhm.
It's complicated,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
But you know what it reminds me? So I read somewhere that said the reason we don't see God mentioned is that we see God's hand at work.
Mhm.
Okay, that we don't necessarily see every day.
That's
And
right.
I met this one over here.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm. So I don't even know. Are we able to see if there's anybody who has any questions or comments?
Yeah, there's been you should see on
Let's
the
see.
yeah.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't miss it.
Yeah.
Hey, folks. So should we continue on or should we take a pause break and we're at a good spot in a world of Hamans be a David or a Mordecai?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah, because we've got what? We've got like one chapter left basically. So
I think we need a little musical break. Could you sing us something?
oh, geez.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Where's my
Does
guitar?
everybody like my hair? Does everybody like my You're kind of biased. Adam, what do we think of my outfit? Judith, what do we think of my outfit? You love it? I love it too. See, everybody in New York, but remember, it's all about the shekels.
Meow.
By the way, I really do love this. Like, look at the eyes.
Yeah.
I am not a furry.
No.
Oh, furries
No.
want to be me.
That's right. Yeah. Furries don't have the range.
No,
We love animals.
we do love animals. He's a really freaky looking cat, though.
Yeah. Is that like an anime thing? What is that?
It's Kiss.
It's Kiss.
Oh, it's Kiss. Okay, now I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Tried to kill us. Let's eat.
Yeah.
They tried to kill us. They did it. Let's eat and drink. This is the by this holidays ordained. We must be happy.
Mm,
Isn't that
that's right.
holidays? You have to be. But I do not. I still will say that the song "Because I'm Happy" is not a happy song.
Mm.
You have to find joy in some other ways. Like I read somewhere that when Stanley and Simmons Jewish connection. That's right. If you're going to tell me that I'm not like he chose his costume, I didn't. But I'll tell you, I was reading somewhere that said that when you choose your costume for Purim, really think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so I decided, because I've always wanted to we're going to do a New York clown sometime. This is the beginning of my New York clown. And I have to say, clowns tell the truth. Sometimes they lie to tell the truth. Fact, they do that. Truth, they do that. The fact is, I am not a furry, and that is also the truth. That I'm wearing a furry mask is true. But it is not true that I am a furry.
Homie, don't play that.
Homie, don't. Yeah, I don't think we'd be getting hitched if I was a furry.
Yeah, that would
And
be.
Chester's and King Lear. This sounds a little bit like Winter's Tale. Ooh. Oh, I know you're only kidding, Adam. It's good to be the king. The Inquisition. What a show. The Inquisition. Here we go. We're on a mission. With the Jews. We're going to teach them wrong from right. We're going to make them be the light. And we're going to make them an offer they can refuse. What's the comment? It's like, wait, what was it? What's his name? What do you say? It's what you want to. It's what you shouldn't do, but you do anyway. Kind of like Haman.
Exactly.
So, Mordecai left the king's presence clad in the royal apparel of turquoise and white. Turquoise and white.
Sounds a little Scottsdale.
By the way, I didn't plan this. This is one of those kind of things that happen. Like blue and white, and oh, I wonder why these things are turquoise, white, blue, and white. Nah, nothing with what's going on now at all. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
That's very true.
And with a large crown and a robe of fine linen and purple, then the city of Shushan was cheerful and glad. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province and in every city, every place where the king's word and his decree reached the Jews had gladness and joy, a feast and a holiday. Moreover, many from among the people of the land professed themselves Jews, for the fear of the Jews had fallen upon them.
Then in the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, on its 13th day, when the king's command and edict were about to be enforced, on the day that the enemies of the Jews had expected to prevail over them, and it was turned about. The Jews prevailed over their adversaries. The Jews organized themselves in their cities and all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to send forth their hand against those who sought their hurt. And no man could stand before them, for fear of them had fallen upon all the peoples. And all the officials of the provinces, the satraps and their governors, and those that conduct the king's affairs, exalted the Jews, for the fear of Mordecai had fallen upon them.
Yay!
For Mordecai was now preeminent in the royal palace, and his fame was spreading throughout all the provinces. For the man Mordecai grew increasingly greater. And the Jews struck at all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, slaughtering and annihilating. They treated their enemies as they pleased. In Shushan, the capital, the Jews slew and annihilated 500 men.
What?
Let's see, Parshandatha and Dalphon and Aspatha and Paratha and Adalia and Aridatha and Parmashta and Arisai and Aridai and Vaizatha, sons of Haman, son of Hamadatha, the Jews' enemy, but they did not lay their hand on the spoils.
The same day, the number of those killed in Shushan, the capital, was reported to the king. And I think actually we're supposed to stop reading around here because this is where the holiday is over, if I remember correctly, aren't we?
Not that I'm aware of, because
Read the whole book of Esther.
yeah,
Okay.
you read the whole book of Esther. You do it on Erev Purim, and then you do it on the day of too. So
Okay.
technically you're supposed to read it twice.
I'm just making sure, 'cause I'm like, I just don't want to, I do also know at Passover is be like, sorry, because we do love life,
Yeah,
but don't hurt us.
that's right.
Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That same day, the number of those killed in Shushan, the capital, were reported to the king. The king said to Queen Esther, in Shushan, the capital, the Jews have slain and annihilated 500 men, as well as the 10 sons of Haman.
Boo!
Boo.
What have they done with the rest of the king's provinces? What is your request now? It shall be granted to you. What is your petition further? It shall be fulfilled.
Esther replied, if it pleases the king, let tomorrow also be given to the Jews who are in Shushan to act as they did today. And let Haman,
Boo!
his 10 sons be hanged on the gallows. The king ordered that this be done, and a decree was distributed in Shushan, and they hanged Haman's
Boo!
10 sons. The Jews that were in Shushan assembled again on the 14th day of the month of Adar and slew 300 men in Shushan, but they did not lay their hand on the spoils.
The rest of the Jews that were in the king's provinces assembled and defended themselves, gaining relief from their foes, slaying 75,000 of their enemies, but they did not lay their hand on the spoils. On the 13th day of the month of Adar, and they gained relief on the 14th day, making it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were in Shushan assembled on both its 13th day and the 14th, and they gained relief on its 15th, making it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, Jewish villagers who lived in unwalled towns celebrate the 14th day of the month of Adar as an occasion of gladness, feasting, and festival, and for sending delicacies to one another.
Mordecai recorded these
Yay!
events and sent letters to all the Jews who were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus and near ones and the distant ones, charging them to observe annually the 14th day of the month of Adar and its 15th day as the days on which the Jews gained relief from their enemies, and the month which had been turned about for them from one of sorrow to gladness and from mourning to festival, to observe them as days of feasting and gladness and sending delicacies to one another and gifts to the poor. The Jews undertook to continue that which they had begun, just as Mordecai had prescribed.
Yay! For Haman,
Boo!
Hamadatha, the Agagite, enemy of all the Jews, had plotted to annihilate the Jews, and had cast a pur, that is, the lot, to terrify and to annihilate them. But when she appeared before the king, he commanded by the means of letters that Haman,
Boo!
scheme which he had devised against the Jews, should recoil on his own head. And they hanged him and his sons on the gallows. Therefore they call these days Purim, from the word pur. Therefore, because of all that was written in this letter, because of what they had seen concerning this and what has happened to them, the Jews confirmed and undertook upon themselves and their posterity and upon all who might join them without fail to observe these 2 days in their prescribed manner and in their proper time of year. And these days should be remembered and celebrated by every generation, every family, every province, and every city. And these days of Purim should never cease among the Jews, nor shall their remembrance perish from their descendants.
Then Queen Esther, daughter of Abihail, wrote along with Mordecai the Jew
Yay!
with full authority to ratify this second letter of Purim. Dispatches were sent to all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus with words of peace and truth to establish these days of Purim on their proper dates, just as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had enjoined them, and as they had confirmed upon themselves and their posterity the matter of the fasts and their lamentations. Esther's ordinance confirmed these regulations for Purim, and it was recorded in the book.
King Ahasuerus levied a tax on the mainland and the islands of the sea. All of his mighty and powerful acts and the account of the greatness of Mordecai, whom the king had promoted, are recorded in the books of Chronicles of the king of Media and Persia. For Mordecai, the Jew, was viceroy to King Ahasuerus. He was a great man among the Jews and found favor with the multitude of his brethren. He sought the good of his people and spoke for the welfare of all his seed.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what is he says? Dancing once. Someone says, wait, Adam says, what did the Jewish gynecologist call her son? Hyman. But a bunch.
Yuck, 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 yuck.
The gore. Oh gosh. Adam, I'm not going to read aloud what Adam said here, but I do think that this was great. This was a great first Purim for me.
Yay.
Yay! Awesome Purim. And
Yeah.
this is actually, technically speaking, I think, John's first Jewish holiday.
Yeah. Yay.
So in this case, he's Esther. Get it? Get it? Get it? Get it? You get it? Everything's upside down.
Yeah.
But so somebody said that's a Catskills joke. Oh, speaking of jokes, why don't you tell everybody your joke about what is the
the Mormon joke?
Yes, let's hear the Mormon joke.
Yes. Okay. And to preface it, I used to live in Salt Lake City in the land of the Mormons, and I got to know their customs, and and so I wrote a little joke that's both a Mormon joke and a Jewish joke. So without further ado, so a Mormon guy gets a second wife, and he goes, "Thank you, Heavenly Father." A Jewish guy gets a second wife, and he goes, "What did I do to deserve this?" That's my Catskills. That's my Catskills joke.
A priest, a monk, and a Jew walk into a bar. Ouch! Ouch! Oi! Another one. In the beginning, there was nothing. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was still nothing, but you could see it.
Yeah. A classic.
So it is now 11:30. We've done this for an hour, and I think we did the Purim speedily, and
Yes,
we did the performance of Purim well, and
shekels. Did you just see it? Adam's joke is
a communist, a Jew, and a Scotsman walk into a bar. Does anybody buy a round? I'm so glad that we made your Purim happy, and happy weekend and everything to everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I think any requests before we close this out? How about I did ask for a song. Can we sing a song?
Oh. Okay. What's a good song?
Well, I mean, one of the things we could do is I think we should do what do we know from Cabaret, because I did introduce this with Cabaret, because
Oh,
what do we know?
I know maybe this time.
Want to try it? We can do it. You're
sure.
5, 6, 7, 8.
All right.
Maybe
this. Wait, we gotta pick a.
No, you go first. I'll just join it.
Maybe this time I'll be happy or lucky. Sorry. Maybe this time he'll stay. Maybe this time, for the first time, love won't hurry away. He will hold me fast. I'll be home at last. Not a loser like before. Wait, hold on.
Anymore.
Yeah, not a loser anymore like the time
Amanda and
before, whatever.
everybody.
Love's a winner, so nobody love me. Lady happy, lady peaceful, that's what I long to be. All my odds are in my favor. Something's bound to begin. Maybe this, or wait, is
That'll
that?
happen.
No, it's gonna happen sometime. Maybe this time I'll win. Everybody loves a winner, so nobody love me. Lady peaceful, lady happy, that's what I long to be. And what is it? All the odds are in my favor. Something's bound to begin. Oh, it's getting high up there. It's gonna happen. Maybe this time, maybe this time I'll win.
We gotta get Rock Man to Esther for like taking one for the team, right? And like, let's hope that in her next life, she found a really good guy that never thought about killing her family because that would have been. But these things happen.
Yeah.
And
Don't marry a king,
Yeah.
right?
well,
Right.
you could become a king, and I'd be fine with that. Although, no, we're not going into the Scottish play now.
No.
And yes, Caitlin's got such a good voice, man. It's a long way to Judah. It's a long way to go. All right, next time we'll be like, so we're not far from let my people go.
That's right. That's right.
No, we're actually going to be together for Passover, so who knows? Maybe we'll be live streaming some Passover, and if he's listening, I think my friend Alex will be joining us hopefully, and it'll be awesome. And it would be anyone else, of course, is always welcome around my Seder table. Always is, always are. So you just hit me up if you're somebody, and we'll always have a little bit of matzah for you. Although I do think that we're going to have to do something really funny with finding the matzah. We'll have to spin
Oh
it.
yeah, the Fikoman.
Yes. Because, Dianu, man. Dianu.
Yeah, exactly.
Dianu.
And you know what? You're invited to the Seder is like the Jewish version of you're invited to the cookout.
This is true. This is true. And I'll take off my, because my mask is starting to hurt me, but no, I think I'm going to leave it on. And I will say, meow.
Woo, woo.
I love, by the way, owls are my totem. So actually, before we part, let me grab my little owl mask and show it to you because I think it's
Okay.
well, you just stick around here with Caitlin for a minute.
Now we got to entertain the people. Well, I'm glad you got to experience. This is like I guess our own little Purim ritual now. We've been doing it, so
Very fun.
what was that?
Very fun and very educating, right?
Oh yes, yeah. This and like I was telling you on the phone yesterday, like this isn't the only holiday where we literally sit around and read a whole book. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know there's for Tisha B'Av, which is like it's a fast day and it's a sad day because we fast to mourn the destruction of the second temple. And the tradition is you go sit on the floor and you read the entire book of Lamentations. So extra suffering that day. You gotta sit on
kind of hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
You could sit on a cushion at least, right?
Yeah. So yes, we are the people of the book for a reason, and sometimes very quite literally.
That's right.
So
The chosen.
yeah. Oh, and there's Maxine in the background.
Yep.
Look at those. Oh, she's got the sweetest little punum. Yeah, let's show Maxine off for everybody.
Oh, look at this
That's a great.
girl.
That's a great dog. That is
Yeah,
a great
she's a
dog.
pretty girl. She don't like kitties.
Yeah.
No, she loves cats actually.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, she's really friendly with all animals.
Oh, she's so
Oh, here comes
sweet.
an owl.
Oh, here we go. Oh, you were not kidding about an owl mask.
Ooh,
Of course.
ooh,
Why would I expect anything else?
ooh, ooh,
Ooh, ooh.
ooh, ooh.
Ah.
See, this was a little difficult to drink with, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, that. Yeah, this is what happens when you have a bit of a theater streak in you, you know?
Yeah, I know. I was like, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Duh.
yeah. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. I have not actually
Yeah.
gotten to dress up in a costume since 2020.
Oh, wow.
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna put this one back, and I'm just gonna come back with something. One more last one.
One more last one. We're gonna do another good costume changes. Gotta do a quick change.
This is the only costume I have.
Yeah. A lot of my stuff is in storage. So, but I never know when I'm gonna need my Ren Fair outfit available.
It's cute. I like it.
For whatever reason, I always thought this was like the perfect Purim mask. And I don't really know why.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
I wore it to a drum circle once and went swimming in it. I know I don't know really what I am. I'm kind of a mouse. Yeah, it's kind of freaky.
Yeah, I can see the mouse. I was thinking also like what's his name? Like the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz or something.
Yeah. These are the only masks we should ever wear in public again.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Agreed. It's totally faux horror, Adam. You're absolutely right. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I've got a bunch of them. It's super fun. But that's also why I was very opposed to masking. But when Caitlin was visiting, you have to do the voice. Do you remember the voice?
Oh, maybe. I feel like it was something like this.
It was a little bit less. It was a little bit more. More. It was a female version of that, if I remember.
Was it okay? Because I remember having the elephant say something like, "Yeah, you're being such an asshole." Don't be an asshole, everybody.
Caitlin.
Yes.
Mwah.
Mwah. Mwah, mwah.
Mwah. Mwah. Sorry.
Yeah, elephant.
All right, honey. You can take your mask off. You want to say hi to the people, or you want us to keep in? This is John.
Hello.
And thanks, guys. Thank you, Caitlin, for doing this with me.
Yeah, of course. Oh, my hair's all messed up now. That's okay.
Mine looks great. Actually, somebody destroyed the curl on my hair, and I'm PO'd about it. But it is what it is.
It'll come back though.
It's gonna come back when it grows back. Let's hope.
Oh, I thought keratin treatments like they ran out or something.
I hope so. I don't know. But I got. We'll see.
Yeah.
But so when you have a chance, definitely go take a watch on that scene with Cabaret with the gorilla. Because
Oh yeah, I've seen that as
Megillah the gorilla.
yeah.
And also, I tell people, what is the Book of Esther called? Also, the whole
Megillah. That's right. Yeah, and that's, I mean, well, and that's the one that we, the Purim spiel, where we do little plays.
The
So
Purim spiel or yeah, exactly. So that's our version of I guess the passion of the.
yeah.
Ours is a little bit more, like yay.
Okay, yeah.
So, anywho, thanks for joining us, everybody, and whoever sees it later on. And I guess I'm just gonna say we should end the stream, I think, and have a couple drinks with amongst us. And thank you, everybody, and l'chaim.
Yes, l'chaim.
L'chaim.
Shabbat tov. Chag Purim
We'll have
Sameach.
more, and I think this we can officially call a really fun episode of War on Memory.
War on memory. That's
Where
right.
Mordecai and Esther win! Yay!
Yay!
Right. All
Yeah.
right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. And we'll always be royals. Royals.
Royals.
Ciao.